Well, it has been 6 months since the release of PTCGL, and I was actually planning to make a video revisiting the game to see if anything I felt at the time had changed when playing it again. But lo and behold, the Pokemon TCG Twitter account decided to release an update giving us some pretty good information on where they're heading with PTCGL. And the tweet reads as follows. Trainers, we are excited to share a new message from the Pokemon TCG Live development team. Learn about the new board adjustments, performance improvements, and more coming to PTCG Live. And they provide a link to an article, which will then take you to this page here, a letter to the community. Dear Pokemon TCG fans, thank you all for providing us with your thoughts, feedback, and support during this stage of the Pokemon TCG Live Limited Beta. Today, we'd like to share some of the ways we're prioritizing development based on the experiences you shared with us and with each other in the community. Okay, alright, get to the point. Well, here we go. A point of feedback we often received is that players feel the game board layout is too limiting compared with a physical Pokemon TCG match. We've adjusted how cards are presented to players in landscape mode to make for more intuitive gameplay. You can see some of these changes in the example below, taken from the version of the game we're currently testing. So they show the game beforehand and after, and it's quite interesting. So here is the game in its current state. Now, granted, I know the quality isn't mad, but it's just a little video that's been imported into the website, so it's nothing mad. But look, this is what it currently looks like. We all know this, right? I was gonna say it's the game board we all know and love, but I don't think there's much love behind it. But this is what it currently looks like. And here is the new board state that they have released to the public. And you can already immediately see some crazy changes here. And we'll go through them just from the first impression perspective. So one thing that's clear as day is they have gone ahead and changed the perspective of the board, which is super important. It's the very same change I made in my I fixed Pokemon TCG Live game board video, where we could see that top-down perspective, and I changed it to have a more kind of like, instead of top-down bird's eye view, it's more of a, okay, why am I doing it over there? Like the camera's over there. So instead of like a top-down bird's eye view, it's more of an angle like you're looking at it from a tabletop, and it makes it feel more authentic, makes it feel more legit, and it feels more right. And it's really good to see that they've taken that on board. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that my change is what they took on board. Obviously, everyone thought that was a better idea. So it's good that they've listened to the community and have made that change. Now, granted, it's a very slight adjustment. I still prefer that 100% to the top-down perspective. And then there's the obvious change that they did mention, of course, the Pokemon cards are no longer in those weird little boxes on the bench. It's not just a box with a picture on it. It actually has the full card there, which is nice to see. And it goes to show that they could do it, that it was possible for them to do that. And that's really, really nice to see as well. Another change is the board itself aesthetically has changed. So of course, in this one, we have those weird like curves going around here, those hexagonal, there we go, type of, I don't know what they're called, so to speak, graphics, I guess you could say, going over the board here. And then you have the avatars, and then of course you have this game info, I guess you would say. So they shrinked the game info by the looks of it, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. The avatars are gone, but that may be because of testing, or they may be revisiting that in total. I doubt it though, because it's built from the ground up. I don't think they'll get rid of that. And the overall aesthetic of the board has completely changed. So you could see they've gone for this dark, again, hexagonal. So they're still sticking with the same themes, I guess, with the big Pokeball there in the middle. And it, this is something they've done anyway loads of times. So they're just kind of using that here, I guess you could say. I'll share my comments on that in a second. They still have the red and blue theme when it comes to the color schemes, and they have this kind of outline area here. So on the first impression basis, it's better. That's the good thing, right? It is better in my opinion. It's less in your face. I like the darkness of the board. Who doesn't use dark mode nowadays? You know what I'm saying? It's just less bright, which is one good thing to see. And that's one small thing, right? And they have added at least something into the board state, onto the board is what I should say, with this like Pokemon, this Pokeball graphic. That's pretty cool at least. It makes it feel a bit less empty. The space is being used a lot better, which is nice to see. It doesn't feel like a small little game on a big screen. It feels like everything's happening in front of you, which is nice, right? The perspective's great, and that's fixed that. The board state does look better. However, on an artistic perspective, it's a step up, but it's a very, very long way away for where I think it wants to be, which is like competing with Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, stuff like that. Like if you play those games, they're graphically beautiful games, right? And if this is trying to compete with it, which I assume it is, then the big issue with this is it still does, unfortunately, even though it's an improvement, it still feels like it's lacking in personality. Not as much as the first one. The first one just felt awful, but this still has that kind of corporate feel, you know, that kind of, it doesn't have that heart artistically. That's not to say that the development team doesn't have heart. You can tell the fact that they've taken the changes on board, so taking the feedback on board, have made the changes relevant to that, and actually have paid attention, shows that they have heart and they do care. I'm not commenting on that at all. What I'm saying is, artistically, it still feels just lacking in personality. I don't think I can say it any better way, to be fair. But that doesn't mean it's not an improvement. But the criticisms, where they are, they still have to stand. I'm not going to try and sound like some sort of privileged child, spoiled kid sitting there going, I want exactly what I say. No, I'm not trying to be like that, but that doesn't mean that if there are criticisms that they shouldn't exist, right? There's improvements, that's great, but there's still a long way to go by looking at this board already. And there's one other obvious thing as well. The rem rate, as you can see here, is facing still towards the player, which completely contradicts the authentic IRL match feel that they've described in their text, right, when referring to this change in the board state. So I don't know if this part of the board here, like the positioning of the cards are a bit off in my opinion. My 8 monkey brain wants those cards to kind of meet down the middle a little bit, you know? I want this Moltres to move up and I want this rem rate to move down. It feels like that just doesn't feel symmetrically right. I don't know how to describe it, but that's just one thing. And as I said, the rem rate should be facing the other way, as if you're playing against someone. I don't know though, I want to point this out, and this may apply to anything I say here, but I don't know if that is just there for the time being. That's not something we need to focus on. They're more talking about the board and the way it's changed, right? This may just be, for now, almost like a placeholder thing, and they'll change it later on, or if they are actually going to stick with that. I hope they don't know, because that just feels so weird. So overall, on the board itself, it's an improvement for sure. Feels much better. Feels like the space is being used more effectively. I do like the trajectory that this is on, and the fact that they are listening. That's really good to see. Still a bunch of improvements needed though, definitely. I think if it was going to be what everyone wants it to be. So let's get on to their comments on this and other things they may be commenting on here. It then reads, this future layout update will give players a complete view of the cards and options available to help inform and improve strategy and play. This also includes reworked card sizes and better use of the board's empty space, so matches feel more active while making more information available to the player. Lovely jubbly. Beautiful stuff. In addition to the layout changes, the development team has significantly emphasized improving the overall visual polish of Pokemon TCG Live while in a match. I'm assuming that is just the board's aesthetic itself, as we've commented on, right? Because there is still one thing that I do have a bit of an irk with, and we can only find it out if they show it or if we see it in the game itself. And there's other aesthetic decisions. So like the famous flashbang from Andrew Mahone, like when you take a prize, it just flashes your face. Like that's something that needs to be gone out of the way. Hopefully they do that, or they will do eventually. And one thing I've commented on as well, where the card kind of goes up and it just completely loses all its resolution. You can actually see the pixels. If you're talking about polish, that's not polish. So I'm hoping those changes are going to be made as well, or they have been already, they're just not showing it. But they use the word polish themselves, so we'll see how it goes. Then they go on to say, our goal is to create an in-match experience that's visually unique and appealing, while also including elements of what we and our fans love about the world of Pokemon. I kind of don't buy that a bit, because this doesn't feel like you're in the world of Pokemon. At least to me, right? Maybe I'm being too harsh, but I'd love some sort of graphics. Or one thing that's great, and a lot of people commented on this, I think this would be fantastic, by the way, and I think it's been done in other games as well, but Player Stadium card, the graphic changes behind, and it makes this, like, you have like a picture of the stadium there. Be nice to see, I don't know, something Pokemon related other than red and blue and a Pokeball. Like, I would like a bit more, I think, on the artistic viewpoint, as we've already covered. So that's kind of why, although they say they want it to be visually unique and appealing, it doesn't feel that way. I feel like that still needs a lot of work. Like, these are just throw out of the head ideas. Like, even like, I will steal an idea straight from Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, have a Pikachu up here or something, and have like a Pokemon there, or, you know, something down that line to just make it feel a bit more alive, you know, make it feel a bit more just the word that's coming to head is beautiful. I want something beautiful. And I'm sure that's what other people want as well, right? Because we are going to compare it to the other games that it's trying to compete. It's just the way it's going to work, right? Because if someone is looking into getting to an online trading card game and they play things like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering and they go into this, they're going to think that's a step down visually, isn't it? You know, it's going to feel a bit barren still. So I know I'm going really heavy on this point, but I'm just trying to cover all angles, man. So no, I wouldn't personally agree with that statement because it doesn't seem to be unique and appealing. It seems to be generic and hollow still, unfortunately. Even though it is an improvement, it's an improvement. It just still has those type of feelings when I look at it, right? They don't go on to say your ongoing feedback on all these significant changes is critical in helping us, and we look forward to sharing how else we'll be rolling out adjustments and improvements in service of that goal. So it's good to know that they're not giving up, right? Because I'll be real with you, I thought they tanked it, mate. I thought they went, you know what? The feedback's awful. Tank it, take the L, move on. I thought they were just going to leave us with PTCGO for God knows how long until they decide to bring it back from the grave. No, they seem to be genuinely committed to it, which is good. Now, one thing I want to know is time frame. I don't know enough about development to really comment on this, but is 6 months, the changes we've just seen now, is that validated within the 6 months? Is that something that's just taken too long to come? Or does it actually take that much amount of time to kind of reimagine the board state? Because you've got to consider design, you've got to consider the actual construction of it. You know, I don't know enough about development to understand if this type of change would actually take 6 months or not. So it's hard to tell, you know, what type of attitude they have, given I don't know how long it would actually take to make this kind of change, right? Because if it took 6 months to change and it make an easy change, I'd be like, well, clearly you don't care. If it was something that actually took a lot of time to do and would have taken a lot of time to do, then yeah, obviously you'd have a bit more of appreciation. But I just don't know, so I'm not going to comment on that, right? But at least they're making it clear that they are looking to improve it still. They're going to say, whilst we've also been making progress on visual and practical improvements to the game board, we've also been focusing on responsiveness of the game, which is really good to hear. In a recent update, we rolled out some changes to the in-game store to significantly improve the time it takes for actions like redeeming booster packs or making purchases. This work will extend to other functions of Pokemon TCG Live to ensure that the game feels quick and seamless both in and out of matches. That's great. One of my biggest criticisms of the game, and the quote I made that I think still applies to this day with the current build of PTCGL, is PTCGL is PTCGO with extra steps. And what I meant by that was the game was clunky, it was slow, it felt like there was a lot more going on that was just completely unnecessary. It seems like they're taking that on board as well, making it feel more fluent and, as they say, quick and seamless. It's great that they've put both in and out of matches, because the biggest problem is in the matches. It is so unbearingly slow. It's really slow, which one makes it unenjoyable to play, and for us content creators, not enjoyable to watch, right? There's so many dead minutes, right, where you're just sitting there and you're waiting for something to happen that you really shouldn't be waiting for. And the game, as I said, felt very clunky and unnecessary. So that's good news. The fact that they've made that clear. Now, obviously, we can't tell because we're not playing. So we don't actually know if it's better or worse. So I can't say that. But the fact that they've acknowledged that is great, because blimey, yeah, the game is so slow to play. So the fact that they take a note of that, lovely jubbly. But again, we have to wait and see when we can actually try it ourselves, right? So my takeaway comments on this is they are heading in the right direction, I think. I think they're on a decent path now. They're taking the feedback that is necessary to take back. And they may be, for now, making the slightly easier changes. Maybe changing the board state. Maybe making it a bit more fluid or more simpler changes, but there are still other problems that still, I think, will need to be addressed regardless in the future. This is going to be, as they said, the best experience of the Pokemon TCG. So if they want it to be like that, then there's still moves to be made. I still am not a huge fan of the aesthetic, but they are kind of almost taking from PTCGO, right? Because PTCGO has the same thing at the end of the day, right? If you look at the board state, PTCGO has this, the blue and red board, right? That you're on the blue side, they're on the red side. It's exactly the same on PTCGO, right? Obviously, it's a bit different, but so they're kind of, it's almost like a more technical upgrade, I guess you could say, visually to PTCGO, rather than taking a completely different artistic route. So that's something that they seem to be doing here. They're kind of just going, right, PTCGO, but let's just make it look more modern. Let's do this, let's do that. Which, cool. But, you know, then it's just like PTCGO 2 rather than something completely different. You know what I'm saying? So it feels like that's what they're doing. But I would like to see a bit more personality in this still, I think. But that's you know, I don't know if that's an ask that can be fulfilled. But hey, when you're trying to compare it to those other big games that it is obviously trying to compete with, there you go. Also, I'm curious to see what they'll do with the mobile version. Maybe the mobile version they'll keep the same, because as we all figured out, and it's kind of obvious, the desktop version was just a port of the mobile version, and that was probably the biggest reason for its downfall. It felt like a mobile game on a PC, which didn't feel great. So there's still problems to be solved, right? And there may be problems that I've missed. So if there is anything I've missed, because by the way, this is mostly off the top of the cuff, you know, I haven't really written anything down or pre-planned anything. I've just kind of seen it and went, oh, record. So if there's any thoughts you have, anything you agree with, disagree with, let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But my main takeaway for this is, do you know what? At least they're improving it. And that's great news. That's great news. And the only way clearly is up. Time, that's another thing, but the only way is up regardless. So I'm looking forward to it. Really interested to see where this goes. Yeah, I think we'll leave it there. Take care of yourself and peace.